My name is Scarlett, 27 years old. I was still numb from the waist down when they wheeled me out of the operating room. The lights overhead buzzed faintly. Nurses whispered as they passed, and somewhere in the distance other newborns cried. Their voices carried through the sterile halls, little echoes of life, but none of them were mine. My daughter had been taken straight to the NICU for monitoring. I hadn't even seen her face yet. This was not how I imagined it. I had pictured trembling hands holding her against my chest, maybe tears streaming down my face as I whispered promises to her. Instead, I stared at a grid of ceiling tiles, trying to absorb the fact that she was here, breathing somewhere near me, while I lay helpless and hollow. The nurse's voice floated in and out. Successful procedure, healthy weight, observation only. I nodded, but nothing stuck. The only thing that anchored me was the weight of my phone in my palm. My hand shook as I typed the simplest, most honest words I had written in months. I can't do this alone. Please help. I sent it to everyone who should have cared. My mom, my sister, even my dad, though we hadn't spoken in nearly a year. I waited for the buzz, the ding, the lifeline. Nothing came. My battery died sometime in the night. When a nurse brought me a charger the next morning, I turned the phone on immediately, clinging to hope. But the screen lit up blank. No missed calls, no messages, no voice notes, just a Facebook notification. I opened it with numb fingers. My sister had posted a selfie at a winery with a caption that felt like a knife. Family bonding day. Brunch and wine with my favorites. She had seen my message. I knew she had. The read receipt glared back at me like proof of betrayal. She didn't reply. She didn't even acknowledge it. I stared at the post for so long my eyes blurred. Rage and shame warred inside me until both left me hollow. I didn't text her back. I didn't text anyone back. The silence grew roots inside me. 3 days later, they discharged me. I shuffled out of the hospital, bent at the waist, stitches pulling with every step. No one came to pick me up. No balloons, no flowers, no ridiculous diaper cake like the ones you see on TV. Just me and my daughter in the back of a cab, the driver silent, except for the occasional cough. At home, survival blurred into routine. Feedings every 2 hours, bleeding that wouldn't stop. Sponge baths when I could stand long enough. I kept food delivery apps open, ordering the cheapest meals I could. A neighbor kid helped me carry groceries upstairs once. I gave him $10 and begged him not to mention it. I cried in the hallway after he left. Weeks passed that way. I measured time in ounces of formula and minutes of sleep. No calls came, no check-ins. My sister never posted about my baby, never texted. My mom stayed silent. My dad, too. It was like I had been erased from their story. Until the morning, everything changed. I was holding my daughter, finally asleep after an hour of inconsolable crying, when my phone buzzed so violently it nearly slipped off the armrest. The screen lit up, 47 missed calls. My heart lurched. For a second, I thought something had happened to Grandma or to Emily, my cousin, who sometimes messaged me. But when I opened the text, the truth was worse. It was from my father. Send $4,800 or else. No hello. No how's the baby. Not even a question about whether I'd survive surgery. Just a demand, flat and cold. My hands shook as I reread it 5 times, trying to convince myself I had misread. But the log of missed calls confirmed it. Dozens of attempts, all in the span of an hour. Panic gripped me. I imagined emergencies, disasters. Instead, it was a bill. I wrote back one word. No. No punctuation. No explanation. No apology. I didn't owe them one. I didn't know what the or else meant. I didn't care. Something in me cracked, clean and final. But the break wasn't relief. It was a warning, because I knew this wasn't the end. 2 mornings later, the pounding started. Not knocking, not tapping, fists slamming against my door so hard the frame rattled. My daughter stirred in my arms, and then shrieked awake, her cry cutting through my panic. I crept to the peephole. There they were, my parents. I hadn't seen either of them in almost a year, not during the pregnancy, not during the surgery, not in the NICU. And now they were outside my door, not with flowers or baby clothes, but with anger in their eyes and entitlement in their posture. I opened because I knew they wouldn't leave quietly. They brushed past me without asking, without a greeting. My mom scanned the apartment like she was appraising a piece of junk furniture. My dad went straight to the fridge, opening it, inspecting it, closing it again without a word. Not once did they look at the baby in my arms. Then Mom started talking like we were in the middle of a conversation I hadn't agreed to. The venue called, the photographers threatening to cancel, the dress deposit's overdue, we need help. Not we need to see the baby, not how are you healing, just money, wrapped in the language of family responsibility. I froze. Where were you 3 weeks ago when I asked for help, when I was bleeding and begging? Dad didn't flinch. You should have handled it quietly, like an adult. My stomach churned. My hands tightened around my daughter as if shielding her from the venom dripping from their words. Mom's voice rose, sharp with rehearsed indignation. Your sister is struggling. She's been under so much stress. The wedding is collapsing. Do you understand how hard she's trying? I remembered her fiancé punching a hole in the wall at Thanksgiving because someone joked about his potatoes. I remembered the drunken shouting, the apologies smoothed over with excuses. Rough patch, they called it. And now I was supposed to fund that disaster? No, I said. That one syllable cracked the air like glass. Mom's face twisted. You're being cold. Family helps family. Dad's tone sharpened. You're holding grudges over nothing. That baby doesn't change your responsibilities. My daughter began crying again, her little voice rising with the tension. They didn't even glance at her. I walked to the door, opened it wide. My body still ached from surgery, but the anger carried me. Get out. They didn't move at first. Then slowly, like royalty, humoring a servant, they walked past me. Mom hissed, You'll regret this. Dad muttered, Don't expect anyone to be there for you when it really falls apart. I shut the door, locked it. And for the first time since the hospital, I didn't cry. I was too tired for tears. That night, scrolling through contacts I hadn't touched in months, my thumb hovered over one name, Noah. He had once been steady, loyal. He had stepped back when I was with my ex, but he'd texted once after the breakup. You know where I am if you need me. I never answered, until now. I sent him a photo of the baby, no caption, no explanation. His reply came almost instantly. She's perfect. Are you okay? I stared at the message, breath catching, before typing 3 words. I need help. I didn't know what I meant, but I knew I meant it. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't alone. Noah showed up the next morning without me asking. His text was simple, I'm outside, no pressure. I stood frozen at the door, unsure if I wanted him to see me like this, unshowered, hollow-eyed, clothes hanging off me. But another part of me didn't care anymore. I opened the door. He had 2 bags in his hands, groceries in one, baby supplies in the other. Formula I hadn't told him about, wipes, even a pack of onesies. It was like he had anticipated needs I hadn't dared say out loud. The way he stepped inside was careful, not slow, not dramatic, just respectful. He didn't glance around with judgment. He didn't make a comment about the mess or the smell of exhaustion. He just slipped off his shoes and asked, Tea or coffee? That first day, we didn't talk about my family at all. I fed the baby while he washed dishes I'd abandoned in the sink. Later, he made pasta with butter and garlic, simple and warm. We ate quietly, the baby between us in her bassinet. At one point, he leaned over and gently moved her tiny hand away from her face so she could breathe easier. My chest ached with gratitude and something else I didn't want to name yet. That night, after he left, I checked my phone. 32 unread messages, most from Mom, some from my sister, 2 from numbers I didn't recognize, probably Dad. My mother had sent pictures of my sister crying in her wedding dress, captions about how I was destroying her day. She wrote that a decent person would help, even after everything. Then came a new message. We're going to have to do something drastic. I don't want it to come to that. I didn't reply. The next morning, when I left to check the mailbox, there was a note taped to my door. Lined paper. Black Sharpie. Family doesn't abandon each other. You're not as unreachable as you think. You'll see. My hands shook. I called Noah without meaning to. I don't even remember what I said. He was at my door within 20 minutes. When I handed him the note, he didn't react with the outrage I expected. He didn't dismiss it either. He pulled out a notebook and started writing down dates, times, everything. He asked if I had screenshots. I did. He photographed the note, then said evenly, This is crossing into legal territory. Still, it didn't stop. 2 nights later, while Noah was over helping me organize baby clothes, we heard the sound. Keys rattling in the lock. A quiet curse. My blood turned to ice. Noah was at the door in seconds, yanking it open. The hallway was empty, except for the echo of someone running down the stairwell. We didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the building made me clutch my daughter tighter. Noah sat in a chair near the door, phone in hand, listening. The following morning, I found an envelope slid under the door. Inside, a crumpled printout of a payment plan from a wedding coordinator's website. The total, $4,800, was circled in red ink. Underneath, someone had written, "You don't get to pretend you're not part of this family." My stomach dropped. I handed it to Noah. He scanned it once, then pulled out his phone and started dialing. "Who are you calling?" I asked. "A friend in law enforcement," he said. "We're done playing nice." When the police came, they treated it with more seriousness than I expected. The officer photographed the note and the printout, logged the attempted break-in, and took our statements. "It looks like harassment," he said, "possibly extortion if the demands for money keep coming." I nodded numbly, half listening. My daughter whimpered in her sleep, and I rocked her instinctively. When the officer left, Noah crouched in front of me. His eyes were steady, calm, the kind of calm that anchored me when everything else felt like quicksand. "They're not going to stop," he said softly, "not until you put real distance between you and them." I swallowed hard. "Distance? Like, stop answering?" "No," he said. "Distance like moving, like leaving this place, for good." The thought lodged in my chest like a stone. "I can't just leave. I don't have money for another lease. I can't—" "You can stay with me," he interrupted. His voice was matter of fact, not romantic, not dramatic. "I've got a spare room. I can make it safe." I stared at him, the words stuck in my throat. My instinct screamed not to burden anyone, not to rely too much. But then my phone buzzed again. Another message from Mom. "This stubbornness will ruin you. Stop fighting us." I showed him. He didn't flinch. "That's what I mean. You need to be somewhere they can't reach you." I wanted to say no. I wanted to hold on to pride. But all I could think about was the rattle of keys in my door, the photo of my sister in her dress, the Sharpie letters, "You'll see," and the tiny breaths of the baby curled against my chest, too fragile to defend herself. That night, I didn't decide, but something in me shifted. For the first time, I understood what it meant when Noah said, "You're not safe here." Because when the next envelope arrived, I realized he was right. The envelope was heavier than it looked. No return address, no handwriting, just a plain white shell dropped into my mailbox. I carried it inside with shaking fingers, already knowing it wasn't going to be good. Inside was a typed letter, my full name at the top, first, middle, last. "If you refuse to help your sister on the most important day of her life, don't expect to be part of the next one. We've made arrangements to visit." No name at the bottom, no direct threat spelled out. But beneath the letter was something worse. Directions. Printed from a county assessor's office, the kind of property listing that showed square footage, parcel numbers, legal addresses, and then a photo. It was grainy, taken from across the street at night, but clear enough. My curtains half drawn, the light from my lamp spilling onto the sidewalk, and there, in the frame of the window, you could make out the outline of the bassinet. My stomach lurched. Someone had been outside, watching. I called Noah, my voice shaking so hard the words came out broken. He was there in 20 minutes. He didn't sit down when I handed him the envelope. He scanned it once, then twice, then went straight back outside to make a phone call I didn't overhear. When he returned, his face was set. "You're not staying here tonight," he said. "I can't just leave," I whispered. "All her clothes, diapers, bottles, everything's here. Grab what you need. We'll come back for the rest later. I already have a car seat in the truck." He wasn't asking. That night, we left with what fit into 2 bags. My daughter's wails filled the hallway as I carried her out. The air outside felt colder than it should have, like the street knew what had been done. I didn't look around to see if anyone was watching. Noah's house wasn't big, but it was clean, quiet, and warm. The guest room had already been set up with a portable crib and folded blankets. A small noise machine hummed soft ocean waves. I hadn't told him what I used to calm her. Somehow, he already knew. For the first time in weeks, I slept without jolting awake at every sound. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. 3 failed login attempts. Unrecognized device. My throat went dry. Months ago, before everything collapsed, I had logged into my bank on Mom's tablet to transfer rent. I never logged out. I showed Noah. His jaw tightened. He added it to the folder he'd started, filled with screenshots, photos, printouts. That folder was thicker now than any baby book I'd managed to put together. When he looked at me again, his voice was steady. "This isn't just harassment. It's intrusion. Financial, personal, physical. We're going to expand the report. I nodded, feeling like I was falling deeper into a pit I couldn't climb out of. That night, he said something I wasn't ready for. You should think about breaking your lease. Permanently. I blinked. You mean move? For good? Yes. Move in with me. His tone was flat, practical, not romantic, but the weight of the words landed heavy. I laughed, half hysterical. You're joking! He didn't smile. No, Scarlett, I'm not. This isn't temporary. They're not going to stop just because you file papers. They're escalating. You need distance they can't cross. I wanted to argue, but then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, froze, and held it up for me to see. It was a photo of his truck, parked outside his house, taken from a car window. The caption, "You can hide her, but not forever." The room spun, my chest tightened. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Noah didn't curse. He didn't panic. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and stepped outside to make a call. 10 minutes later, he came back in, locked the door behind him, and said, "That's it. You're done here. You and the baby are with me now." I didn't argue. Not anymore. We moved everything in one trip. A friend of his showed up with a van, and in under 2 hours, the last traces of my old life were crammed into boxes. Clothes, bottles, blanket, a few dishes. No framed photos, no heirlooms. Nothing worth saving from the wreckage of family. The landlord didn't see me. Noah handled the lease break, paid the penalty up front, and told me to forget about it. "This is about your safety, not debt," he said. That night, sleeping in his house, I felt like I was inhaling after weeks of drowning. It wasn't fancy, just white walls, a crooked lamp, and a faint smell of cedar. But it was safe. He had already stocked diapers in the closet. He had already folded burp cloths on the dresser. He had already made it a home. I didn't cry. Not then. I was too empty. But when I lay down beside the soft hum of the noise machine and my daughter's steady breathing, I realized something terrifying and beautiful. I wasn't terrified anymore. The next morning, another bank alert came in. Attempted access. Blocked. Noah added it to the file. He looked at me across the table, eyes steady. "They're not just trying to take your money. They're trying to take your control. We're going to stop them." For the first time, I believed him. Because now it wasn't just me holding the line. 2 weeks later, I found myself standing in the back of a courtroom with Noah at my side, my daughter bundled against my chest. The judge flipped through page after page of evidence Noah had so carefully gathered. Screenshots of texts, photos of the notes taped to my door, the printout with the circled $4,800. The grainy photograph of my living room window with the bassinet silhouette, even the attempted bank logins, documented down to the minute. The judge barely looked up. He didn't ask many questions. His pen scratched across the paper, and then he spoke the words I didn't realize I'd been desperate to hear. Restraining order granted. It was over so fast I almost didn't believe it. Months of fear, weeks of escalation, and it ended with a few strokes of ink on a legal pad. But as we walked out of the courtroom, relief didn't flood me the way I thought it would. Instead, I felt hollow, like I had been bracing for so long that letting go would take more time than the order itself. Noah noticed. He didn't push me to celebrate. He just checked the rearview mirror a little too often on the drive home. That night, he taped the order to the inside of our front closet door, where I couldn't miss it. He didn't say it, but I knew why. Proof we weren't helpless anymore. Still, the quiet didn't last. A week after the order, Mom called Noah's workplace. Not mine, his. Somehow she'd found the company number. She told the receptionist that Noah was harboring a mentally unstable woman who had run off with her baby. She said there were legal matters unresolved, threatened to show up if it wasn't handled. When Noah came home early that day, I saw the anger in his jaw, the way he held his phone like it was burning his palm. He didn't tell me to calm down or that it was nothing. He called the officer we'd spoken to before, updated the report, and then told me we'd be visiting the station together. This time, we didn't just speak with a patrol officer. We sat down with someone from the domestic crimes unit, a woman with sharp eyes and a voice like steady glass. She listened as Noah laid out the timeline, the notes, the calls, the financial intrusions, even the workplace harassment. She didn't dismiss a single piece of it. When she finished flipping through the packet, she leaned back in her chair and said, "They're escalating. You did the right thing by coming here now." She explained the next steps. Additional documentation, protective orders, scrubbing my information from public records databases. Then she looked at me directly. They will try again, but this time it's you who has the power. Her words caught in my throat. For the first time, someone in authority wasn't telling me to forgive, to be patient, to remember that family is family. She was telling me I was right to draw the line. On the way home, Noah didn't take the usual exit. He drove past it, out toward the edge of town, until we stopped at a tiny diner with chipped red booths and a neon open sign that flickered like it might give up at any moment. We hadn't eaten all day. We slid into a booth. The baby slept in her car seat beside me, a soft snuffle against the noise of plates clattering and a jukebox humming faintly in the corner. Noah ordered for both of us without asking, burgers and coffee, and then, like it was the most casual thing in the world, he said, "I'm not just doing this because I'm your friend." I turned, startled. He kept his eyes on the window. "You and her. You're not a burden to me. I want you here, for real." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened, my chest ached, but no words came. For the first time in months, I wasn't being demanded of, accused, or threatened. He wasn't taking anything from me. He was offering. Later that night, after we settled the baby into her crib, I noticed something taped to the fridge, a calendar page. On the date 2 weeks from now, in Noah's neat handwriting, was a note. Court filing plus security upgrade. He hadn't told me about it. He just planned ahead. Quiet, steady, thoughtful, in ways I hadn't realized until now. The next morning, he checked every lock in the house twice before leaving for work. He did it again when he came home, and every time he did, the knot in my chest loosened a little more. Days passed. We began to fall into a rhythm, shared chores, late-night feedings, whispered conversations while the baby stirred. Small things, simple things, and yet every one of them was louder than the chaos I'd left behind. Still, the silence from my family didn't feel like peace. It felt like the pause before the next storm. Because if there was one thing I knew about them, it was this. They didn't stop. Not when they'd convinced themselves I owed them. Not when they believed family meant obedience. And in the stillness of that week, I caught myself wondering, what line would they cross next? Weeks passed, and for the first time in years, life began to feel almost ordinary. Not easy, never easy, but ordinary. Mornings started with the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Noah always made enough for both of us, setting my mug on the counter even when I was too tired to notice. Afternoons blurred into diaper changes, feedings, and soft laughter when my daughter discovered her own reflection in the mirror above her crib. Evenings ended with Noah checking the locks, his silhouette moving calmly from door to door while I rocked the baby to sleep. It was quiet, and in that quiet, something new took root. One night, I walked into the living room to find Noah asleep on the couch with my daughter, sprawled across his chest. They were both breathing in sync, his hand resting lightly on her tiny back as if he'd always been meant to hold her. I stood there for a long moment, watching, until something in me shifted. I realized it wasn't just gratitude I felt for him, it was love. I didn't tell him that night. I didn't want to break the peace of the moment. But the next evening, while we folded laundry in the dim light of the living room, I said it quietly, "I love you." He didn't even blink. He looked at me and replied, "I've been waiting to hear that for a long time." There were no fireworks, no dramatic kisses, just a deep exhale, like both of us had been holding our breath and could finally release it. Life settled into a rhythm of small rituals. He moved the crib into the master bedroom. We talked about turning the guest room into a playroom. We shared grocery lists, bills, midnight feedings. Somewhere in all that, the boundaries between yours and mine blurred until everything became ours. But the past didn't stay gone. One afternoon, I powered on my old phone to retrieve a tax code. The screen flickered to life, and with it came a flood. 24 voicemails, 43 unread texts. The most recent, only days old. They wanted to talk. Not about money, they claimed. About peace. Mom offered to meet in a neutral, safe place. She insisted my sister had changed, that she was ready to apologize. She promised they weren't after anything, just reconciliation. The words gnawed at me. I stared at the messages long enough for Noah to notice. He didn't ask what they said. He just looked at me and said, "If you want me there, I'll come." I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. 3 days later, I agreed. We chose a cafe downtown. Bright, crowded, impossible to manipulate. I told them I'd come alone, but I didn't tell them Noah would be parked across the street the entire time, watching. They were already seated when I walked in. My mom stood halfway, like she expected me to embrace her. I didn't. My sister looked pale, dark circles etched under her eyes. My dad gave me a forced smile, the kind strangers share at funerals. I sat down. The air between us was tight, as if we were playing roles in a play none of us wanted to perform. I spoke first, before they could begin their rehearsed lines. I don't owe you anything. Not time, not forgiveness, not money, not access to my daughter. My mom blinked like I'd slapped her. My sister leaned forward, voice shaky. I never meant for things to go so far. I didn't know how hurtful my messages were. I was stressed with the wedding. Her excuses blurred together, a broken record of stress and pressure. My father stayed quiet until I turned and looked him straight in the eye. Was it your idea to take that photo of my window? His silence was louder than a confession. His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. Something inside me hardened. You showed me who you were when I needed you most. That won't ever leave me. I'm not here for closure. I'm here to say this once. Do not contact me again. I don't trust you. I don't want anything from you. I'm not angry anymore, but I am done. My mom gasped, clutching her purse as though my words had physically cut her. She tried again, desperate. We just want to know our granddaughter. I shook my head. She has a family. She has someone who shows up. I stood up, heart pounding but steady. Don't follow me. They sat there, stunned, as I walked out. Across the street, Noah's truck waited. I slid inside, buckled my seatbelt, and kept my eyes on the window. They say anything worth repeating? He asked. No, I said softly. They never will. For the first time in months, I believed it. 2 weeks passed. No calls, no knocks at the door, no envelopes slipped under the mat. The silence was so complete it felt almost foreign, like stepping into a room you'd always assumed was locked. Jack, the man I once thought I would build my life with, was a ghost now. My family had retreated into their own shadows, licking wounds I hadn't inflicted, only revealed. And yet, a part of me couldn't quite relax. I'd spent too many years waiting for the next shoe to drop. Noah noticed. He didn't say much, but he kept up the small routines that had become our fortress. Checking the locks every night, restocking diapers without asking, leaving notes on the fridge with grocery lists and reminders like Appointment Tuesday, don't forget, quiet acts that built a life steadier than any promise my family had ever offered. One evening, as I stood at the stove stirring pasta, he leaned against the doorway watching me. You're quieter lately, he said. I shrugged. I'm waiting for the storm. He crossed the room, slid the spoon out of my hand, and replaced it with his. Sometimes storms run out of rain. I wanted to believe him. A week later, Emily texted me, one of the few relatives who hadn't turned on me. Mom's furious with everyone. Kyle's sulking at Grandma's. She says he eats through her fridge and sleeps all day. Even she's tired of him. I read the words twice, a bitter smile tugging at me. For once, his chaos wasn't mine to clean up. Emily followed with another message. Don't feel guilty. They made their choices. I didn't reply right away. My fingers hovered over the screen before I finally typed. I don't. Not anymore. That was the truth. Still, my family wasn't done entirely. One morning, I opened my email and found a message from Mom. No subject line, just a single sentence. You've changed. Don't let him isolate you from us. We're your blood. I didn't bother showing Noah. I didn't answer either. Instead, I archived it, then deleted the trash folder so thoroughly it was as if her words had never been typed. Blood, I thought bitterly, had been the knife they used to cut me open again and again. But love, the steady, chosen kind Noah gave me, was what stitched me back together. Life grew quieter still. My daughter started giggling at silly faces, gripping Noah's fingers with surprising strength. One night, after she finally fell asleep, I turned to him on the couch. Do you ever regret it? I asked softly. Regret what? Letting us in, the chaos, the drama, me. He shook his head immediately. No, not once. You don't understand, Scarlett, you and her. You're my family now, the only one I need. My throat tightened. For a long time, I thought family was a word I'd never be able to trust again. But in that moment, I realized it wasn't the word that was broken. It was the people I'd once given it to. A month later, through whispers of mutual acquaintances, I learned my sister's rushed backyard wedding had ended almost before it began. Her husband pawned some of Dad's jewelry when he got drunk, and Dad finally kicked him out. Divorce papers followed. Their picture-perfect event, the one I'd been told to sacrifice everything for, had crumbled into dust. The irony didn't make me happy. It just made me certain I had been right to walk away. I hadn't spoken to my parents in months now. They hadn't seen my daughter, hadn't heard her laugh or watched her crawl, and they never would. That door was closed, locked, sealed shut. Sometimes late at night, I wondered if I had been too harsh, if there was a version of this story where forgiveness lived alongside survival. But then I remembered the photo of my window, the circled $4,800, the note. You're not as unreachable as you think. And I knew there was no path back. The chapter of my life tied to them had ended. One evening, Noah grilled dinner on the back porch while the baby monitor buzzed quietly between us. The summer air was warm, the kind that clung to your skin. We ate in silence for a while until he said, almost casually, "Do you realize we haven't heard from them in over 2 months?" I nodded. Maybe they finally got the message. Or maybe, he said, they're regrouping. I looked at him, a flicker of fear in my chest, but his eyes were calm, steady. Either way, he continued, it doesn't matter, because now we know how to live without them and we're not going back. I reached across the table, took his hand, and held it tight. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the wallet. I wasn't the afterthought. I wasn't the child told to sacrifice so someone else could shine. I was just Scarlett, mother to a daughter who would grow up knowing love wasn't obligation, and partner to a man who had taught me that chosen family could be stronger than blood. And that, I realized, was worth more than any apology my family could ever pretend to give.